Assetto Corsa Competizione is releasing on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, and today I had the chance to speak exclusively with Marco Massarutto, the co-founder and executive director of Kunos, about what players can expect in this new version of the game. We talked about the new features, how the company has integrated fan feedback into the game, and we even talked about what's next for the Assetto Corsa franchise. Without further ado, here's Marco. Hello, Marco. Thank you so much for joining us today, and congratulations on bringing Assetto Corsa Competizione to PlayStation 5 and the new Xbox Series X. Congratulations to you and the team.
Thank you very much. It's nice to see you again. After more than 1 year, maybe.
Yes, I think a year exactly. I think, and I know you guys have accomplished a lot. Let's talk about that. Tell me what's new in this new version of Assetto Corsa Competizione on these new consoles. What can players expect now?
Well, it's been a very interesting challenge because also the lack of consoles that needed also to test and play the game. So actually it was quite interesting, and we've taken advantage of the pros of the new gen consoles in terms of performance and features, and I think that the players will be able to join and to enjoy better performance, better resolution, and the latest updates we produced for Assetto Corsa Competizione on PC. Some of these updates will come a bit later after the release because of the submission process. But that said, I think that the new gen consoles can perform and manage better the software we created with the Competizione, that is a very complex software in terms of physics, graphics, and so on. Also in the last year, we worked a lot to improve the performance and the CPU usage also on PC, and the new gen consoles will take advantage of the further development that has been done in the last year also on PC. So we have this kind of synergy between the PC and console that continue to work very well. The porting on the new gen console has been produced by third-party studios we are cooperating closely with. That is Untold Games, that is an Italian studio, and they are very specialized in using the Unreal Engine, and this helped us a lot to bring on PS5 and the new Xbox all the main features that the players are waiting for.
Well, one of the most common questions that I see in our community is people want to know is will cross-play be possible between the different console generations and even between the consoles themselves? What's the status on that?
Well, the cross-play in a lot of games is still a sort of unicorn because it exists in theory but not in the real world. What I can say is that it will not be possible between, for example, PS4 and PS5 users to play together for some very simple reasons. The first one is that on PS5 we can feature private lobbies that is not possible on PS4 at the moment. And the other point is the difference and the gap of performance, because on PS5 AC Competizione performs at 60 frames per second at 4K resolution, while on PS4 or PS4 Pro this is not possible because the games reaches the 30 frames per second, and this could result in an advantage for the PS5 users, and the same happens for the Xbox players. So the crossplay at the moment will not be possible.
I see. It's amazing to me that you and your team have actually been able to port this game to so many different platforms. You know, it's just I mean I'm a programmer myself, and it's just I cannot imagine how difficult it must be, because you're effectively supporting, I think, 5 different platforms now between PC, PS5, PS4, and Xbox One and Xbox Series. I mean, how is this possible?
No, to be fair, as Kunos Simulazioni, differently by we did with Assetto Corsa 1, the porting on console has not been managed directly by Kunos, but under our supervision, as well as 505 supervision. But the porting itself, thanks to the advantage of the Real Engine that has been designed in order to make possible the porting on different platforms, for the old generation of Competizione has been done by D3T, that is an English studio based in Liverpool, while the new gen version of Competizione, the porting on console, has been managed by Apple Games, as I said before. So the main goal for our studio, as Kunos Simulazioni, was to schedule the development of the new content and the new features and updates in order to working in parallel with these studios. That is not easy because they are external studios. We cooperated quite well with them, but they are a separate team. So sometimes you need to find a way to sync the activities in order to do not let the console porting to behind from the PC PC development. So and we have also all the submission process with Sony and Microsoft. That is something that is needed to release any software, any game on console, and we need to take it in consideration also when we develop the game on PC in order to support properly these external studios. So by this point of view has been a challenge because it's like working, splitting in three all the tasks we have, but having the chance and the privilege to stay focused on the PC development, we have been able to produce updates and enhancement on the main software that will be an advantage also for the console players.
I see, and I guess this explains why so often we see the updates come out on PC first, and then console players it may be a few months later.
Yeah, another reason is that developing on PC is, let me say, from some point of view, more flexible than developing on console, because we can arrange a private beta testing team. And any beta tester just need a PC to join the beta testing team. When you develop on console, you need a test kit or a dev kit from Sony or Microsoft, and this is not quite easy to get. And in terms of flexibility, working on PC gives us a level of freedom that on console you definitely can't achieve. So by this point of view, we can be even more quick and effective in the way how we can find a bug and fix it, making another test in order to have in this QA phase that on PC can run far more smoothly. And also, thanks to the huge community we have on PC, once an update becomes public and goes public, actually we can have hundreds of thousands of beta testers that play the game and find those kind of bugs or issues that even the best possible beta testing team in the world could be also formed by, I don't know, 100 people, can't find. It's a matter of numbers, actually. So when we are able to fix the PC version, the console version of the game can take advantage of these huge, let me say, public beta testing. So both the versions of the game take advantage of this. For example, more than 1 year ago, we have been able to increase a lot the number of players, both on multiplayer and also in single player, because we applied on PC before some features in terms of optimizations of CPU usage that was designed mainly in order to meet the needs of the console that actually can be as much as power as an high-end PC. So we have this kind of synergy between PC and console. Usually players see the two platforms one against each other, while actually is exactly the opposite, because one can take advantage of the, let me say, also the limitations of the other platforms in order to have better performance, better features, and so on.
Very interesting. And of course, speaking of the players, Assetto Corsa has a massive fan base at this point, and they are not afraid to share their opinions on things and their thoughts on the game. So can you explain fan feedback and how you integrate that into Assetto Corsa Competizione and what changes you've made based on that kind of response?
Well, I think that we should hire, I think, I don't know, 20 or 20 people, 50 people only to read all the requests and comments we get from the community. But jokes apart, when we find a trend topic that we understand that could be actually effective for the good of the game, we always try to evaluate if actually is a feature or a content that we can include in the software for the benefit of the players and of the game. For players, is never enough. That's is not a complaint. Actually, is the best compliment we can get, because if anybody asks for any new feature, new content, it just means that they are not playing your game. While when actually they say, okay, this is nice, this is fine, but we want even this, and that, it's because they want to continue to play your game. That's something that pushes us to understand actually which kind of updates are feasible to be included in the game, and instead then, for example, okay, we can include this feature is cool, but we need to think about, I don't know, Assetto Corsa 2 for this feature, because now, I don't know, it's too late for this in Competizione, or because Competizione doesn't fit with a specific feature. Just to give you a very easy example, all our gamers are asking for the North Life in Competizione, but they never will see it. I know that is a bad news, but actually the North Life is our favorite track as well. We spend every year, we spend 1 week there for R&D activities, for fun, and so on. So you don't have to convince me to put it in our games. But the North Life is not part of the SRO World Challenge calendar. So, for example, we need to filter between those features or requests that actually can be feasible for the game and some that can't. For example, they would like to see some classes of cars that can't fit with a SRO formula, because we are talking about GT cars, so the vintage cars can't be there, and so on. So in terms of features, somehow we need to understand actually what we can do and what we need reasonably to delay for a new Assetto Corsa episode.
Yes. Well, of course, these days, thanks to the Fnatic Esports, GT series, you have more professional drivers than ever playing your simulation and playing your game. Do you get feedback from them? Do they have any comments when they play the game?
Sure. Well, many of the comments and suggestions they gave us through these 4 years are already in the game. In terms of physics, in terms of tire behavior, car handling, and so on. Just kidding a bit, the only information you don't need to listen from the drivers is about the balance of performance value. Because all of them would like to see their car faster than any other. So actually, and this is not a joke, in these 4 years, we work very closely with SRO, spending a lot of time on track, working with their engineers, the drivers, and so on. And through these 4 years, we saw exactly the same kind of complaints the drivers and the teams have with the real SRO championship, right, in terms of balance of performance. Because they say that the ballast is too heavy, and they say that the car now is too slow, and they say exactly the same to us. So at least we know that we are doing a good job. In terms of features, what I can tell you is that the last version of Assetto Corsa Competizione, the 1.8 version, actually includes so many enhancements and improvements that actually we should call it Assetto Corsa Competizione 2, because it required almost 1 year in development. And we did include only the difference that we have seen in terms of balance of performance or the features between the 20 and 21 season, real season. But includes a huge work that has been done on the tire model, on the aerodynamics. This was very important also for the reputation of the Assetto Corsa franchise, because we continue to improve the game, even if now is more than 3 years old and is not based on any subscription. But we like to improve our products as much as we have a reasonable margin of improvement. So we continued through these last 2 years in cooperating with the race drivers. Many of them are also beta testers of private beta testers of competition, in order to include those enhancements that actually all the gamers now they can enjoy.
Yes, that's interesting. One thing I've always been curious about as well is, games today, they allow you to collect data and analytics data. And I've always thought that's very interesting. Is that something that you collect in Assetto Corsa Competizione to see, what type of cars and tracks may be most popular with players?
Yes, and it would be better if I didn't. Because I know that for sure now, following the statistics about the most played tracks, for example, that we should need just a couple of tracks or 3 to make a game, because the players don't play the others. No, I mean, they play on any track, but 2 of them, at least in Competizione, are the 2 most popular and chosen tracks. I will not tell you which one. I can tell you that one is very easy to remind in terms of bends, straights, and chicanes. So I gave you the clue. It's an Italian track, by the way. That is Monza. And the other one is one of the most favorite tracks ever for any gamer, that is Spa-Francorchamps. So these are the 2 tracks that are always chosen in terms of statistics. In terms of cars, it's different because gamers are not linked to a specific car. They just want the faster car. So when you find a trend topic that, I don't know, in February, someone starts to say that, I don't know, the BMW M4 is the faster car, then you see that the servers full of BMWs. This is the way how it works, even if it's not that case. But yeah, in terms of, we also saw the same when we made in the past for Assetto Corsa 1 some survey asking to the players, okay, we are going to produce this new Ferrari pack for the 7th anniversary of the Ferrari brand and blah blah blah. So we already chosen these cars that will be part of this 7-car pack in the game. So you have the privilege to choose the 7th car. So the 7th car will be chosen by the community. So you can see in the forums, people started to talk about the Assetto Corsa, the Testarossa of the 50s, rather than another car that competed in the first GT series and blah blah blah. And so if you read the comments in the forums, you can have a great idea about, okay, people would like to see this, this, and that. And in the end, the 60% of overall votes went to the latest Ferrari Formula 1. Just because it was a Formula One, it was the faster. Even if in the game the previous Ferrari Formula One of the season, of the previous season, was already in the game. So they always want and are looking for the faster car usually. So it's quite easy. We should make a game, I don't know, only with Bugattis, possibly. But sadly for some of the players, I'm a huge vintage car fan, and I'm in charge for the licensing side. So I had to my voice, by this point of view, counts a bit more.
Yes, you have first choice.
Yeah,
Right. It's good to be at the top, right? Well, let's exactly. Well, let's talk about this year, and we have, obviously this is a major update for Assetto Corsa Competizione to come out on the new consoles. Let's talk about what type of content that players can look forward to this year. Can you give us an idea of the roadmap that you have planned for what players can expect?
Yeah, sure. Actually, we had some. We were a bit far with the licensing side, so I can't tell you so much about the single content because we have some licensing agreements that are still in progress, and before to unveil this content, we need to close these agreements. Even if we are very close, but never say never. But we'll definitely have this year a new car pack that will consist in some cars that have been showed or leaked in the last keynote we made last October. So we'll have the Ferrari Challenger Evo, the new Porsche 911 Cup, the new BMW M2, which one? The new Audi GT3 Evo, and I think another car that at the moment it doesn't come in mind. But we should have this car pack that will arrive, and this is confirmed on late spring this year. And maybe it will not be so late spring, but we are working on some details, working on the graphics, on the physics. So, but we are in line to release this pack on late spring. And then we will have a track pack that will come out this summer. And I can't tell you more about that, but we will have this track pack that will make, I think, people very happy. It's not the Roche Life, I tell you in advance, but I guess that people will like it because it expands even more the choice of worldwide circuits, because the Assetto World Challenge is mainly based in Europe, being a European challenge, but this track pack will expand even more worldwide the choice of tracks. That is always a good thing because can make happy a lot of gamers from Asia, United States, and so on.
Yes, that's good to know. Well, one thing about Assetto Corsa Competizione on this new release, I noticed that that the game actually got moved forward by 2 days. The release date got moved forward by 2 days. I was so surprised to hear that. I have to ask what happened behind the scenes.
Well, actually, it was even internally a surprise. But actually, since in terms of logistics, it's quite easier to release a digital content rather than a physical retail copy. And we just said, okay, we can do it. Why not? Because we had a lot of people that pre-ordered also the game, and we had this spot, this time window available to release the game two days before, and users are used to see their favorite games delayed for months sometimes.
Yes.
And so we usually make things differently. And even this time, we want to make them a surprise. This time, a nice surprise.
Yes, yeah. We won't mention any names here and of the delays, but that's usually what we see from other game developers.
No, because the submission process went fine, and everything was right in place. And once we have been offered this time window, we say, yeah, sure, why not? And we did it.
Yeah. Well,
Without
that's very
remaking
good
all the
news.
communications, the teaser, it's okay. Let's just release the thing, release the Kraken,
Just do it.
and let's see.
Yeah, that's great. Well, of course, we're still waiting on a lot of details with the new PlayStation VR, but there's obviously a lot of anticipation and excitement around that. Do
Yeah.
you think that that is something that will be supported by Assetto Corsa Competizione in the future?
Well, not at the moment. At the moment, we don't have specific plans yet. We'll see which kind of penetration this new device has also in terms of diffusion, because it requires a specific and dedicated effort. So we'll evaluate and see. But at the moment, we don't have specific plans yet for the VR2.
Yeah, it still may be quite
Yeah.
far away. We don't really know much about that yet. Then the other question I wanted to ask about Assetto Corsa Competizione, this was actually posed to me from the community. That the game obviously has a lot of third-party tools that will read data from the game, via like UDP streams and different apps and sort of things. Will those features, will that functionality be supported by these new ninth generation consoles?
Well, we have much more restrictions in terms of data usage that we can get out from the PC, where everything is far more easy rather than on console. So we'll evaluate after the release which kind of freedom we can get by that point of view. But since the submission and approval of the first party is really very challenging, for a game that is very complex, like Competizione, that once everything will go in place, the game will be online, and people will start to play it and so on. So we can see actually if we need to spend more time in some fix or updates and things like this, we'll take a deeper look also into it. But definitely on PC we have a different level of freedom in terms of how we can output some data rather than on console.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the future of Assetto Corsa. Let's talk about what's going to come next. Yes.
Let me get the crystal ball, okay?
Yes. When we spoke last year, you mentioned that the team was still doing a lot of research with with Unreal Engine and Unreal Engine 5, the new version coming up. I was curious to know, have you reached any conclusions from that research, or where are you at now with the development of your next title?
I'm curious too. No, well, 1 year ago we had many questions about it. Also because the arriving of Unreal 5, that for the very little things we already saw, is a quite interesting engine and tool. But we spent the last year and a half in some internal R&D activities. And we believe that for the next Assetto Corsa title, we'll get back to use a new engine we are developing. Not because there is anything wrong with Unreal, but we are not only a gaming studio. Actually, we are not. Kunos Simulazioni is not a gaming studio. It's much more a sort of technology provider. And accidentally, we make also racing games. And so we like a lot to produce a technology that we can use for our products, like, for example, the Assetto Corsa brand. And we, being a very little studio, because at the moment the size of the team is more or less 30 people, we need as much as flexibility as possible. And by this point of view, we need to create that kind of tools that can be easier for us to use and also to understand. So it's not a secret that a new Assetto Corsa title is in development. Will be more a sequel than Assetto Corsa 1, of course, than Competizione, that is a specific product based on the SRO GP series. So we believed that we needed some that kind of technology that can guarantee us the flexibility we need. And if you think that the first Assetto Corsa has been programmed for the 85-90% by one person, that is Stefano Casillo, my teammate in business, and now we have a team of 15 programmers. I think that we can nail it again. And for what I can see at the moment, we are confident about the fact that in the next Assetto Corsa title will satisfy the expectation of our users that are always rising because of the success of Assetto Corsa. And of course, we know very well that we can't make anything worse than Assetto Corsa Competizione or Assetto Corsa 1 modded to the to the heaven, because also in terms of modding, new shaders, effects, rain, and so on. We taken a deeper look about what people are doing in the community. They are doing an amazing job, and this is also a challenge for us because it pushes us to make our work even better. So we'll see. But at the moment, unless we have some unforeseen trouble that I can't see at the moment, will not use Unreal 4 or Unreal 5 for the next Assetto Corsa chapter.
I see. That's very interesting news. That's very interesting news.
If we survive, of course.
Yes. Well, I've always been curious as a game developer and as a businessman, when you're adding new features to something like Assetto Corsa Competizione, and you have a future title at some point you will release in the future. How do you make that decision of okay, we're going to save this feature and save it for the next title, or we're going to integrate this feature into our existing game? How do you reach those conclusions? What do you factor into a decision like that?
Well, as you can see, I'm already smiling because now I had to put on the clothes of the villain. Because as businessman, any businessman is a bad guy, And the problem at Kunos Simulazioni, including myself, is that every time we go into a new project like Assetto Corsa 1, now Competizione, and tomorrow Assetto Corsa 2, we fall in love with what we do. So the point is that the gamers want always even more, but also us as developers, we always want to include the new features instead to say, okay, this will be dedicated only to the next Assetto Corsa chapter. This is a very cool feature, but we are not going to put it into our current product. This is for the new one. We usually never do that. And the proof is that we spent almost 1 year in what could be called a patch, the 1.8 patch for Competizione, that is a completely new game. So by this point of view, is always a challenge to understand when to stop the production. Also because there are a lot of features, also in terms of physics and aerodynamics, tile model, and so on, that has been done for Competizione, but thinking also to the next Assetto Corsa chapter. So it's never easy for us, considering also that any game, any Assetto Corsa product is based on a monthly or yearly subscription. So what usually happens that from a commercial point of view, you can imagine that when we release a patch or a new build like the latest one, we make our current community very happy because they can enjoy an updated product, but this doesn't necessarily bring new users. So mostly what we do is for the community we already have. Of course, this works a lot well with the reputation, for the reputation of the Assetto Corsa brand, and this is a sort of investment also for the future. But we usually don't tend to say, okay, this could be done for Competizione, but we'll do it for the next Assetto Corsa chapter. That said, it always arrives at points when you need to to freeze what you are doing. You need to evaluate that, okay, your current product has reached a very good level of performance, reliability, content, and things like this. So definitely now we need to move on the new project. Also because especially when you decide, like we did, to develop a new technology, a new engine for your next project, is something that doesn't appear like this. Can require 1 year or 2 years in development, only to produce the engines, the tools, the editor you need to produce the game. So this is a very long-term kind of investment. So sometimes you need to just to say, okay, guys, we need to stop here and start a new chapter. And this has not yet happened, because we have some DLCs that are in progress, but there is part of the team that is already working for the future and for the good of the brand and for the gamers, of course.
That's good to know. And of course, with the Assetto Corsa Competizione running on Unreal Engine, of course, the game is running on Unreal, but the physics of Assetto Corsa Competizione is all of Kunos' own physics code, right? So I'm sure that will continue on into the next Assetto Corsa.
Absolutely, exactly. Artificial intelligence routines, the physics, the netcode, and many of the aspects that makes Assetto Corsa Competizione what it is. Use algorithm logics that are produced by Kunos Simulazioni and are, let me say, just managed through Unreal Engine. So all the goods that we did in these years will be brought and even improved in the next Assetto Corsa chapter.
Yeah, a lot of people will be very glad to hear that. And of course, you mentioned artificial intelligence. That's something I wanted to ask you about. That's obviously been in the news lately with the sim racing genre. Can you explain how the artificial intelligence works in Assetto Corsa? And is that an area that you guys have continued to develop?
Well, I think that one of the most characteristics and very well-known things about the AI in the Assetto Corsa product is that the cars driven by the CPU use the same physics of the player. That means basically that the car behavior of the artificial intelligence is very close in terms of how the car reacts to the driving, so that you never have this sort of feeling that the artificial intelligence is scripted. Because you can clearly see that there is no a specific or magic force that puts the AI cars on the tracks just to let them to reach and stay close to you. At the same time, the artificial intelligence routine has been designed in a way that they don't want to allow you to win. Let me explain. If you make a mistake while you are racing, the AI cars will not get slower just waiting for you, because they just try to make their own race. They try to win. And when they make mistakes, is that because actually the driver routine, in the way how he evaluated the speed of that corner, he made a mistake like a human, and not because they are being programmed to make mistakes, but because shit can happen sometimes.
Right.
And this happens also to the AI. So, and this is not because we made the competizione, but honestly, I have to say that I never found that feeling that actually when I'm playing a race against the AI, I don't have the feeling that they are there like just a sort of sparring partner, just to let me to play or just to make me happy. I feel that I'm into a proper competition against the computer. And I think that this is very important, because sometimes you can't understand actually, also if you watch an Assetto Corsa video on YouTube, if you are watching a multiplayer or a single player race. That is such a compliment that we received it so many times. that is quite a compliment, because if you tell me that the AI in the good or in the bad behaves like a human, okay, we nailed it. So by this point of view, I think that the fact that the AI cars runs on the same physics of the player makes a big difference. That said, for the future we are also evaluating different patterns or different logics, because as you can imagine, this approach is very CPU demanding. So we are evaluating if we can improve or change in a good way the way how we work on the AI routines in order to make them even more effective, or to improve the way how they can evaluate how to avoid a collision, how to be faster, or how to react to even to strange human behavior from the players, so that you don't find that kind of weird effect because the AI doesn't know what to do because the player is just doing weird things. But actually, I think that will happen also in the real world. I mean, if you have a driver ahead of you that does strange things, I think that the first thing you do is just getting lower on the throttle, braking, and stay far from it. But anyway, we are evaluating if we can improve or find a different approach also for the AI for the future. But at the moment, we are satisfied about the level we reached with the Competizione. That is a huge step forward if compared with the Assetto Corsa 1.
Yes, it's a fascinating technical problem, I think. I'm sure most people don't realize how difficult it must be to build a system like that. There's so many variables involved. Like I said, strange behavior. Even humans don't know how to react to something like that. So, of course, one thing that AI typically works with is sort of like a single player mode, offline career mode. Is that something that you're thinking about for the next Assetto Corsa? What would your idea of a career mode look like?
No, we are evolving also the way how we are working on the gameplay. The first Assetto Corsa can be summarized like, okay, choose the car, choose the track, and do whatever you like. And actually it worked a lot fine. But we understand that today players are also looking. When I say players, so I say sim racers. For me, it's the same. So let's hope that people will not say, okay, he said players, so we are not sim racers. We are not taking in consideration, because let's say the community. Some of the people in the community are also looking for a good career, and I think that. In the next Assetto Corsa, we are making some efforts in order to do something different by that point of view. Instead of making a traditional career, that is something that needs a lot of efforts, time, people, and resources to be done in a proper way. And since the next Assetto Corsa is that kind of Assetto that could run forever, we need to make something in terms of career that can't finish with a limited number of cars, for example. So we are trying to think bigger with a different approach, thinking more as petrolheads, in terms of what a petrolhead would like to do, what he would like to do in the real life. And we are thinking about how we can satisfy not only the sim racers, but also those people that would like to build something in terms of experience, in terms of career, and so on. I totally recognize that I'm very cryptic in this, but you will need to wait and see.
Certainly appreciate you chatting with me today. I could talk to you all day and ask you questions, but I know you have a lot of work to do. And
no, is that my throat is done because I got some flu, not COVID, but.
Well, we certainly hope that you get feeling better, and and hope that you and the team can enjoy the success and this new release on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X with Assetto Corsa Competizione. So congratulations, and thank you once again, Marco.
Thank you, my pleasure. Ciao.
Ciao.